Welcome to today's module on state and federal policy fellowships for policy and advocacy. This is our second career-focused module on science and technology policy fellowships. In our last class, we heard a lot about the AAAS fellowship specifically, definitely one of the more well-known fellowships, but there are many more out there. And tonight you're going to hear about a few more of these fellowships and where you can find out more about them.
For our panelists, we have Ian, who is also a Mirzayan fellow. So we'll pick on him to go first, just to keep the transition going. He's currently an ORISE fellow at the Department of Energy, which is a very interesting agency to me because I know almost nothing about it. So looking forward to hearing more about that from him. Ian, we'll start with you.
Awesome. And I forgot, was it 8 minutes or should I go less?
Yeah, it's about 8 minutes. And then also to the audience, feel free to continue to place your questions in the chat throughout the talk. And panelists, feel free to answer as you go, or we can save them for the Q&A at the end.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nicole. So yeah, let me see where to start. I guess I'll give you a brief background of where I'm coming from. And then I'll jump into how I got into the Mirzayan Fellowship, and then afterwards I'll talk a little bit about ORISE and what's happened basically for all of that. So I'm originally, so my name's William, but I go by EM. I'm originally from San Diego, California. I transferred from community college to UC San Diego for a bachelor's in chemistry and chemical physics with an emphasis in chemical education. I received my master's and PhD, actually my PhD just last year from UC Irvine in material science and engineering, where I basically conducted work on sustainably producing hydrogen. And so I originally went into my degree really loving science, like wet lab work and computational work. And I thought, hey, I'm going to become an advisor and PI. This is a really sexy job. I could totally do this. But a couple years in, I discovered that work-life balance wasn't really there, and it wasn't what I wanted in my life. And so that and kind of thinking about my interactions with my boss really led me to kind of not experiment, but to explore other opportunities. And so at the time, UCI was just starting up a science policy group. So I joined the group and I attended basically lectures and stuff that people would come in and talk about their experiences in science policy, just like you're doing now with us on this panel. And so I found that really helpful. In particular, a lot of the people that came in really felt fulfilled. And I have to say, a little segue, I feel fulfilled right now in terms of both my experience in Mirzayan and as an ORISE fellow, which has played a big part in sustaining me in science policy. Whereas in my grad degree, I didn't really feel fulfilled at all. But that's another thing. Anyways, so I started towards the end, mid to end of my degree, I started not getting along as well with my boss. So I started taking in secret public policy courses too. So essentially getting another master's in public policy and also a master's in chemistry on the side. And so those really allowed me to explore sort of much more qualitative, learning, evaluation, program evaluation and stuff, and which only fueled my love for science policy even more. And so I after almost getting my master's in public policy, I was like, this is my thing, guys. I'm gonna do this. And so I was really jazzed, and I had heard about Mirzayan, and then I had started talking with people and interviewing, and I actually interviewed with Nicole, who I owe a major debt of gratitude for helping me successfully land the Mirzayan Fellowship. And so, yeah, I wrote down tons of stuff, but I don't have tons of time, so I'll try and condense it. So basically, talking with Nicole made me really competitive. She really inspired me. So I recommend you talk to her, but I don't know if she has time for all of 90 people.
You could also talk to other Mirzayan fellows as well. but I am happy to help.
Being like flexible in terms of your placement or potential placement at a board or round table. And my timing in terms of being graduated already really helped out a ton. And so maybe the composition of the cohorts for Mirzayan, it's like a third of the people are still in grad school, closer to 2/3 are kind of done or just finishing up. And then you'll occasionally have one or two people with like an MD or doing a postdoc essentially. And so that seems to be the cohort design. I had a wonderful cohort. I was given the opportunity for flexibility in time and projects. I got to attend lots of House, Senate meetings, diplomacy events, NGO events, where I got to learn about how things functioned and new topics. And so I worked during the Mirzayan Fellowship on the Board of Science, Technology, and Economic Policy, where I studied or I helped on different reports on US competitiveness in the 21st century, inducement prizes, which are those competitions, challenges that, you know, will give you X amount of dollars if you develop this technology type of deal. And then I worked on SBI or STTR, which is Small Business Innovation Research Grants and Tech Transfer projects relating to different agencies in the US and a few other things. So what did I do during that time? I did a lot of vignettes for reports. I did a lot of captioning of videos that were recorded. I synthesized and condensed a lot of information from panels. And I created these like mini like one-pagers that we gave back to those panels and or we would use in reports later on. So the pandemic hit and it cut like a third of the fellowship down. It was actually super hard to function because NASEM at that time, everyone at that time, it was just everyone, like trying to figure out this remote work conditions. So that was kind of tragic. But around that same time, I was also trying to figure out like, oh, I didn't have a job planned after Mirzayan. So I was looking at NASEM for like an associate program like manager position. And so I really loved it there and I would stay there and I would probably apply there again at some point in time. But I actually found the ORISE fellowship and just by chance, my work on these inducement prizes or challenge prizes exactly overlapped with what they were looking for. And so, yeah, so I really hit it big with my current boss. I had one round of interviews. And so ORISE has these science and technology policy fellowships. They pay pretty much just as much as AAAS STPF. They are a lot different in structure. And especially in the pandemic, I've never met anyone in person. Most people have their camera off, like 99% of the time. Everything's done remotely. I work on this water security grand challenge where I try and find technologies to produce potable or fit for use or fit for purpose water. And in this, I'm running low on time since major things I do are I do webinars, I do websites, I do video editing. I also create talking points. I do communications and advertising for events. And then I do a lot of judging and evaluation for grants and a lot of like report outs, which is like judging of current awardees of major grants to decide whether they need to change things or if they're doing good. So it's kind of like red, yellow, and green lights for judging them. And then currently I am running a trilateral agreement with 3 nations. I don't know why they call it trilateral because it's actually multi-nation beyond 3. And so my experience, which I could talk a lot about later or during the discussion portion, is like it's sort of like constant fires and constant reprioritization. And so that's like a major skill that you kind of need to be able to function well in these environments. But yeah, so I talk too much. I'll throw it over to you guys and answer any questions or comments.
Thanks, Em.